Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Flow podcast by Highland Yoga, hosted by founder Elsie Brotherton and co-hosts Reedy Dukes and Annalie Burke. Highland Yoga is an Atlanta-based hot yoga studio founded in 2015 in the quaint neighborhood of Virginia Highlands. And it's hard to wrap our minds around just how much we've grown and evolved since then. We already know our community is hooked on whatever magic is within our walls, and we want to offer you more outside of that. We can't wait to dive deep into all things yoga and wellness, but more importantly, what makes our world go round: our teachers, our devoted students, our community offerings, and more. Thanks for tuning into the podcast.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Find Your Flow. I've got with me today Reedy Dukes, as usual, and then special guest Shereen Ashtiana Donaldson. Shereen is one of our longtime teachers at Highland Yoga. Welcome, Shereen. It's so great to have you.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So the topic of discussion today is yoga therapy. Shereen, do you want to just tell us in a nutshell what yoga therapy is before we get into the full interview with you to kind of set the scene?
Yeah, super briefly, yoga therapy is the practice of using ancient yoga principles to create an individualized daily plan for people with the goal of helping to relieve any suffering and bringing them closer to a balanced life so that they can feel their best throughout the day. So yeah, I know yoga does this too, how we normally see it, yoga classes, but in this case, you get kind of the one-on-one experience, and you also go through an assessment with your yoga therapist to just get something uniquely tailored to you, your needs in that current setting that you're in.
Very cool. So yeah, yoga therapy, one-on-one therapeutic yoga. So kind of leading into this discussion, one thing we wanted to touch on is like, what do we do already for self-care and especially taking care of our mental health? And then, I think that leads into the discussion of how yoga therapy could potentially help listeners and how it works. So yeah, on the topic of self-care, I'm just kind of curious for the two of you all, what do you guys do? What are some common routines, habits?
Yeah, when I think of self-care, I think everyone's mind kind of goes to like the bubble bath or the walk or, all the typical things like, getting your nails done, getting a massage, all of that. I do on that level. I absolutely love going in and getting a foot massage at a place, which name I'm not going to mention because it's a secret hiding place for me. But I also think that just taking care of yourself in relationships and knowing how to ask for what you need and how to set boundaries. I think making time for yourself. So just giving yourself, if you think of one thing that occupies too much of your time and it doesn't need to, cutting that out, making space for maybe new hobbies. Exercise is huge for me. Getting to spend some quiet time since my job is mostly talking. So silence is really important sometimes.
Which is tough. I think teaching yoga full time is really tough if you're a bit of an introvert, which I think both of us have some introvert qualities.
Oh yeah. So yeah, and I think I would say top one for me is just utilizing my support system in my life and reaching out and asking for help. I would say that's number one for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of what I heard in all of that, Reedy, is all of your self-care practices have to start with mindfulness around what you need, and then creating almost like systems for addressing, what you need and getting what you need.
Yeah, for sure.
Shereen, what about you? Self-care.
I love that. Reedy had me kind of think about curiosity, which is something I'll talk about a lot in my yoga classes lately, about needing to be curious about what you need in that day or that moment for self-care. So for me, that typically means starting my mornings off as slow as I can. So that might mean that I have to get up at 5:30 in the morning so that I can have coffee, read a little bit of a book, find some time for movement, yoga, walk, whatever it is. But that kind of, I've noticed a trend. If I create the space for me to do that for myself in the morning, it makes my days so much better, my week so much better. And I'm able to show up as a friend, as a partner, as an employee, all of that.
Yeah, that's all really good. So for me, I feel like it's kind of like what Reedy said, the mindfulness around what I need is such a big thing. And I kind of have to fight for it. So, having a 3-year-old and then also doing Highland Yoga full time, plus some other work that I do, if I'm not really careful, every ounce of energy is just sucked out of me. And I have to be really intentional, especially on Mondays, because Billy's in school again. And I've got the morning to myself. I don't go into Atlanta. I don't go into teach. Like, I have to take 2 hours Monday morning, very specifically, to just have quiet time and to read or go for a run or do yoga, like just reset for the whole week, or else I'm just even more tired by the time I get until Tuesday, Wednesday, and there's no coming back. So yeah, running has been a big thing for me, but of course, yoga always is my go-to. And I'm actually excited to do Reedy's Yoga Nidra recording after this podcast. We just posted it last week. Reedy, do you want to talk about what Yoga Nidra is?
Yeah, so it's basically, and I might be describing this wrong, I'm not like a total expert, but it's essentially not quite sleep, but they call it yogic sleep, right? It's kind of just a meditative state right before sleep, that feeling right before sleep. So it's kind of cultivating that. We go through, we go through mindfulness of the body and mindfulness of breath and some breath cycle counting and some visualization at the end. And I love recording these. It's super meditative for me too. So I hope you enjoy.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking time for that. I'm sure everyone will love it. Very cool. Okay. So transitioning into Shereen's journey as a yoga therapist, I guess, Shereen, tell us about your journey with yoga generally. Like, how did you end up on this podcast talking about yoga?
Yeah, I actually love reflecting on that journey. So, I have always been pretty active, but yoga was just a small part of that activity. Years ago, it was like one day a week. But then I went through a pretty big loss unexpectedly. My dad passed away. He had a fall, and he was so healthy. Like, weeks before, I had him go to the doctor to get checked out to make sure that we could start running together and doing things together like that. And then unexpectedly he passed away. So the interesting thing about this, where it's like always like higher powers kind of working, is before he died, he gifted me like 10 yoga classes. And it was like he died 3 or 4 weeks before my birthday, and this was a birthday gift. So he had given me my birthday gift almost a month in advance, which is also wild. Because he had a mental illness where meditation was the one thing that kept him pretty at a balanced state over his 60 years of life. I'd never seen him more balanced than when he was meditating every single day. So, so he gifted me 10 classes to yoga. And when he passed away, the only way I could really think about moving was doing yoga. Like, I couldn't get myself to lift weights. I couldn't get myself to go for a walk. It was like, that was the only way I could actually move my body and feel good in my body. So, I shared this story with Karen a couple weeks ago, but I went to her class first, and I didn't know her then at all. But like in Shavasana, I was getting really emotional. And then after class, I just came up and kind of told her, this is my first time doing any type of movement since my dad passed away. Like, you held space for me. This was amazing. I feel the best I've felt. And she just gave me the biggest hug. And so from there, it was like Highland Yoga was my place. I went every single day for a few years, probably. And when I started learning more and more about yoga, I wanted to learn to make sure that I was doing it in a way so that my body would be able to do it for the rest of my life, because I loved it so much. So that's what brought me to doing my yoga teacher training with Highland Yoga, was that desire.
Did you have any yoga experience before your first class with us?
No.
Wow. That's a really powerful story. Thank you so much for sharing. So when did you do your teacher training? Do you remember?
2018. Spring 2018. Crazy.
That feels like a million years ago, but also like last week, maybe.
I know. And it was so transformative. Like, because you go in thinking that you're going to be learning just about poses and about how to put a sequence together, but you guys like incorporate so many exercises that make you actually know yourself better, come up with ways to heal, come up with ways to, do better personally. And so, yeah, best thing I ever did.
I love that. Yay. Very cool. So after you did your teacher training, then you started teaching pretty soon after, right?
Yeah, I took like 6 months off because I never went in with the intention to teach. I just wanted to learn more. But I was teaching free classes at a local library, my Seva classes. And, uh, and after a minute, I was like, I always struggle with like confidence. Like even in my professional jobs, that's one area I get feedback on is like I need a bit work on showing that I'm confident. And so kind of similar experience, it was like 6 months later and I was like, I'm just gonna give it a shot, and like if they tell me no, they tell me no, like whatever, just gonna see what happens. So I auditioned and you guys welcomed me and coached me, and I think I taught my first class was like Wednesdays 6 a.m. in the treehouse.
No. Okay. So for those who are listening, the treehouse was the original memorial location. We moved it used to be down in Grant Park, and it was this really cool space that was a little awkward for yoga, honestly, on the
Yeah,
second floor. It was really, really long and narrow. And I think we had like 4 spots in a row or something. It was really hard to teach in there, actually.
it was.
Um,
Yeah.
but a very special space for our yoga family. I think it felt pretty magical up there, but we needed more room. So we moved the studio to Madison Yards in 2020, right before COVID hit. So in case
Yep.
you're wondering, very cool, Shereen. Okay. So you've been teaching with us since 2018, basically.
Yep.
Yeah. And now you're teaching at our memorial studio on Tuesday nights, which is very exciting because we'll get to see each other.
Yeah.
So in addition to teaching yoga and your daytime job, you're now pursuing yoga therapy and studying yoga therapy. Tell us more about yoga therapy. What drew you to it and what is it? If you want to just
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think my goal has always been, even when when I was going through college as a psych major, was to like be a therapist or just help people feel their best, help people show up in this world as their best self. And through these last, I guess, 6 years, my favorite day of the week is the day I get to spend teaching, a room full of people, what I know about yoga. So started doing research, like what is yoga therapy? What does that learning process look like? How can it help others? Just started digging in a little bit. And I found this program that was kind of a go at your own pace, but we had like it was live meetings, it was all virtual, and it was focused on mental health, which is like what my passion is about based on growing up with my dad, and just I've always been interested in the topic, because some programs are more geared toward like physical ailments and this is more towards mental wellness.
Mm.
So I found a program that I was interested in. It's about 800 hours of training, so over 3 years of training. And yeah, my goal going into it, I think, was to just learn more about yoga again, like the philosophy, the history, as well as like how certain poses or breath work supports healing in different ways, or reduce like certain breath reduces stress, certain breath can increase energy. So trying to learn a little bit more of that so I can incorporate it into my classes, but also so I know as personal knowledge. And so through this, I'm just staying really curious about what it'll look like when I finish the program. Will I go into being a full-time yoga therapist? Will I just be able to host these functional groups every few months and support people in different ways? So yeah.
Very cool. Okay, so we know that yoga therapy is one-on-one. That's one way that it's different from a traditional group yoga class. And what else makes it different? What makes it therapeutic?
Yeah. So in the one-on-one atmosphere, you always begin with an assessment. And at this, we're looking at all the human layers. So we're looking at mental wellness, emotional wellness, physical, personality traits, and in some cases, spiritual interests, and assessing an individual in all of those rates. So for example, for me, my body might be presenting as one thing, like maybe my body is feeling lethargic or stiff, but my mind is feeling very airy and anxious and busy. And so I would look at somebody with that similar makeup, and for their body, I would make sure to incorporate some quick moving, kind of how we do our sun bees at Highland Yoga. So moving through a couple quick vinyasas, but then also creating space for them to really wind down and calm the mind at the end. So also, as you mentioned, Reedy, the yoga nidra, like that's super good for somebody that is feeling really anxious or needs to wind down or has individuals that suffer from insomnia. Like we almost always will give them a yoga nidra practice to do before going to bed if they're open for it.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. So what are some guiding principles for what you kind of prescribe for someone?
So we use the Ayurvedic doshas, which I don't know if everyone is familiar, but we look at them from a holistic perspective of 3 doshas with the goal of getting them to a balanced state. The 3 doshas are vata, which is like air and light, kapha, which is grounding and earth, and pitta, which is like heat and fire. I'll never forget in our yoga teacher training, the Ayurvedic practitioner taught us that vata is like a greyhound, kapha is like a Saint Bernard, and pitta is like a what is the police dog?
Oh, German Shepherd.
German Shepherd. And I feel like that makes them really relatable to understand, is you can like envision the dog and their personality and it kind of matches.
I like the greyhound.
I know, me too.
Yeah.
That's really funny. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So if someone is showing up with greyhound energy, we want to look at either asanas, so like postures, shapes that we can give them, or breath work that we can give them to maybe bring them the opposite feeling. So rather than having them only do vinyasas over and over again, we're going to incorporate some things that will encourage them to soften and quiet the mind. But a lot of times people need a little bit of everything in order to get to a balanced state, because if you bring somebody that's really high energy, flighty, and all you want to do is do a deep stretch class for them, they're not going to be ready for that yet. They kind of have to get some of that energy out before they can get to that rested state.
Yeah, I was talking to someone who did a continuing education on, it might have been like a yoga therapy kind of thing, but she was talking about how for people with a lot of anxiety, they actually do really well with like the quicker movement in the beginning.
Yep.
And like a super long warm up is going to be problematic for them because like they just really need to move. And I just feel like that resonates so much. Like I think about what works about our style. It's that we get moving so quickly, but then like I can get that energy out and have the time to just go deeper into this kind of longer holds. And then really for me, the part that is the most effective of the class is that cool down and the shavasana, but there'd be no way to start with that. It just would not work. So anyway,
exactly.
That's very cool. Okay. So yeah, you're basing your kind of treatments on Ayurveda and the doshas. I feel like Ayurveda would be an amazing podcast topic on its own.
Yeah. I was going to comment on the way you start the classes, I was going to say, I love too how at Highland, some of the teachers will walk in and they'll see the energy of the room and then kind of decide, okay, does this room need to start in down dog, or are they okay starting on their backs? Or, because sometimes I'll have a plan in my mind and then I walk in and I see, well, everyone's sitting upright and they're like ready to go. Okay, maybe we need to start like in down dog or in child's pose where it's a little quicker to move versus like in an early morning class when everyone's like on their backs, like, still waking up.
Yeah, that is totally true. It's like very time specific. And then to some extent studio specific. I feel like different studios like to go out some different speeds, maybe like different energy. But yeah, like the evening classes, my 6:15 class, I can tell everyone, when I step in there, they've had a really long day, but they kind of need to work some stuff out. So we always get moving really fast, and they tend to move the fastest of all the classes that I teach. That Wednesday 6:15, it's like in the beginning, people are cruising and you can't slow down the class. Like it's kind of self-propelling. I don't know if y'all have ever experienced that.
I know the feeling. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like if I stopped talking, I think they would just keep moving still.
I know. This is true. Okay. So how do you like to integrate mindfulness and meditation into your therapy sessions? Like beyond the physical practice, what does the meditation piece look like?
Yeah. So anytime I'm meeting with someone for a yoga therapy session, we'll check in have some small talk at the beginning, but then I'll always offer a few different ways for them to get started. I'll say, do you want to start with breath work, meditation, or some gentle movement? So that's one way we'll get it started. Then, based on how that goes, based on how they're feeling that day, one thing I love to do is incorporate visualization into meditations, particularly for individuals that don't have a strong personal meditation practice, or they get distracted easily when they meditate. Having something to actually visualize will help it helps them focus and stay maybe in it a little bit longer. So if I have someone that is looking for more groundedness and more confidence, like at the same time, I might ask them to visualize like a strong rooted tree with big branches. And that helps them, like, the groundedness of the roots, but the confidence of like the big tree and green branches ahead. So
Cool. That's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, so
And then
I
I
guess
also,
I guess the main goal is feeling more balanced. So I'm just curious, like, how do you measure that, or like how do they report that they feel more balanced? What are you looking
yeah,
for?
usually they'll start off a session either saying like, hey, I'm feeling so much more centered, these last few weeks than I have before. And so usually they'll just verbally tell me. In some cases, you have clients that kind of say, hey, like, I've been talking to my doctor and I think I'm able to reduce my, what is it, like, anti-anxiety medicine a little bit, based on the work that we've been doing. And I obviously won't comment one way or another on that because that's outside of my scope of practice. But if them and their doctor decide it together, then to me, that's also a great sign that what we're doing together is working.
What are some common challenges that clients face when they get started with yoga therapy? And then what do you do to work through those?
One thing might be the cost, right? Because if you're seeing a therapist and you're seeing a psychiatrist and you're seeing regular general practitioner, you're already spending quite a bit of money in this area of wellness, you're all that good stuff. So, but one thing that a lot of people don't know about yoga therapy, and I think this might also be true for yoga classes, is they can use HSA or FSA card to pay for the sessions. So while we're not on a insurance list right now, they can use that card to pay for sessions. So that could be one. Another could be, a lot of people are really used to talk therapy. Like, they're great at talk. They're great at coming in and talking and saying everything that's on their mind and what goals they have and how they want to change. But this isn't really so much of that. This is more about getting it through with your body and your breath and that sort of thing. So trying to get them used to that different approach to therapy.
What are some misconceptions about yoga therapy that you encounter? And then what do you do to address them?
Yeah, I guess a misconception is that the therapist is, the expert, or everything I say they need to do, that sort of thing. It's kind of similar to teaching yoga. It's like, we're going to be the guide. We're going to help you notice things and experience things. And then you're going to decide what to do with this information. And you're going to decide to get more curious and notice what works well, what doesn't work for you. So we're definitely there. It's like a consulting relationship, if that makes sense. Like, we're working together to find the right fit for this person to feel their best. It's not that we have all the answers. Really, in hope, they have all the answers. We're just helping them bring them up and bring them to the table.
Yeah, I love that. So one thing I did want to talk about on this podcast that I thought would be cool, I know you incorporate breath work into your sessions and you do different types of breath work for different clients, right? Or to address like different things your clients are dealing with. And I thought it would be cool to incorporate some like interactive breath work into
I
this
love
podcast.
that.
Yeah. So, okay, I want to try a few things. I know there's so many different types of breath work that you can practice, and some are more accessible than others, but I'm thinking, what if we do one today that's for anxiety, if you're feeling anxious, one that's maybe to help build energy, and then a bonus one of your choice.
Okay, I got this. We got this. Okay, so one for anxiety is, I love the Unaloma Ujjayi. So a lot of people are familiar with Ujjayi breathing, which is even inhales and exhales through the nose. And I like the comparison to smelling a flower with your mouth closed. But for Unaloma Ujjayi, it's kind of like a step up. So for this one, you are going to inhale through both nostrils, but then it's alternating nostrils as you exhale. So starting with breathing out of the left first. So we can go ahead and do this together if you guys want for a few rounds.
Let's try.
So wherever you are, if you want to go ahead and maybe try to soften your shoulders, maybe close or soften your eyes if you feel safe to do so. And then go ahead and bring your right hand towards your face. You can use your thumb and your ring finger to do this if you like. So thumb towards the right nostril and ring finger towards the left nostril. From here, just keep both nostrils open. Take a deep breath in with the closed mouth. And then close the right nostril, breathe out of the left. Release the thumb. Inhale through both. Close the left, breathe out of the right. Inhale through both. Close the right. Inhale through both. Close the left. Take one more round each side on your own. And once you've completed, you can release your hand. Maybe start to softly open your eyes.
That's nice.
Yeah, I love that one. It's also very simple to do. You can do it anywhere.
Okay, cool. Okay, so that was for grounding, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So now let's say it's 3 o'clock on Monday and you've had a long day so far. You've got another 3 hours of work. I'm feeling tired. What do I do? How do I get energized?
So for me, I feel like this is where it could be helpful to bring some like cooling energy in. So sitali breathing, maybe. For this one, you try to curl your tongue, but if you can't do that, you can just like close your mouth like you're sipping through a straw and breathe in that way. But with this, you can also lift the chin and lower the chin. So go ahead and find if you can curl your tongue, that's great, or find the straw with your mouth. And then inhale, lift the chin, breathe in. And exhale, lower the chin, breathe out. 3 more times, inhale. Exhale. Twice more. Last one. Really nice.
I was laughing because Reedy looked like she was taking a big gulp of something. She's like throwing back a beer. I mean that with love. It was really cute. Okay, that's a good one. That's a good one. Okay. So, and then third, do you have a bonus one that you like? Like, what's your favorite? What's your go-to?
Yes. Yeah. So my favorite is just bringing like hand to body and breath connection. Like this is so easy. It makes me feel like super present and aware of my body, my breath, all the things. So all this takes is if you feel comfortable, you just bring your palms to your belly and you just let the inhale be free, let the exhale be free. But here we're just noticing the rise and fall of the belly. So to get started, you can be seated or you can be seated or you can be standing. Just bring your palms to rest on your belly here. And again, soften your shoulders, maybe soften or close your eyes. And from here, just breathing in and out. Really trying not to control the breath, just noticing the belly rise and touch the palms with each inhale. While everything sinks with each exhale. Maybe
Maybe just noticing where the breath is getting stuck and where it's flowing nice and free. Where you are, maybe take one more round of breath here. When you're ready, you can blink open your eyes. Just come back here.
Thank you for sharing that. That was awesome.
It's probably my favorite part of the whole podcast.
Yeah.
Doing the breath.
Yeah, doing breath work is always a good thing. So finally, I think last question, what advice would you give someone who's interested in pursuing yoga therapy, either as a practitioner like yourself or as a client, someone who's looking for this service?
Okay, so I'll talk to the practitioner first. So obviously to move into this field, you do need your 200-hour yoga teacher training first. So definitely look into getting that. And I know we have a program coming up this summer. I think that still has 4 spots in it.
Yep.
So that would be a great way to do it and see, do you like this practice? Do you like teaching it? Do you like, explore it that way? And then the governing group is called CIAYT for yoga therapy programs. And you can go to their website and find a list of all the programs. Some are in person, some are virtual, some are, So you can go there and find what would be the best fit. I'm currently in the Optimal State yoga therapy program, and she has her PhD, I think in kinesiology, but she's taught at universities. And her program worked really well for me with the interest in mental health and just the structure of the program. But do your research, maybe interview a few folks that have gone through yoga therapy training, yoga teacher training, and just make sure you're finding the right fit in regard to that. And then continue to stay curious about it. I'm not going to lie, every few weeks, I'm like, should I still be doing this? It takes a lot of time to get this extra certification, but so I just always check back in and make sure that it's still something that's fulfilling me, still something that's a part of my values and that I want to move towards. So that's for the practitioner. For a client, if they're interested in yoga therapy, I have a wide connection of yoga therapists across the globe through this program. And then I'm also providing yoga therapy in partnership with In-Town Family Therapy there. And so,
So cool. Well, I'm so impressed by all the hard work you poured into this program. And it sounds like such an amazing offering for your clients.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I've been loving bringing it to Highland Yoga too. Everything that I'm learning, I've been loving bringing to my classes there.
Yes. And in case you missed it, Shereen teaches at our Memorial location on Tuesdays, 6:15 and 7:35. Yeah. If you want to take her class, meet her in real life, or connect with her about yoga therapy. Well, congrats, Shereen. And thank you for joining us today. It's been such an honor to chat with you.
You too. Thanks so much. I always love getting FaceTime with the both of y'all.
Oh, yeah. Same. All right. So thank you for listening. Thanks for tuning in. We will catch you next time for Find Your Flow. Bye, y'all.
Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast. Your support really does matter. This podcast is produced by Highland Yoga with music by our very own teaching team member, Lauren C. If you want to learn more about Highland Yoga, visit our website at highland-yoga.com or email us to sign up for our weekly newsletter at info@highland-yoga.com. See you next week for more of Find Your Flow.